Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Beth Ann, and today I want to do the frustrating books tag, which I think went around a little while ago. I'm really behind on my tags, so Rosie Cockshut tagged me like a month ago, so I'm finally getting around to doing this. The original tag is by Nat over at Nerdy Nat Reads, so I will link Nat's channel and Rosie's channel in the description box below, and as usual I will put all of the tag questions with timestamps in the description box below. So let's dive right in. So the first question is, name a book you predicted would be 5 stars but wasn't. So I restricted myself to just books that I read in the past year, or actually really just since I started BookTube in October. So there were 2 that came to mind. So the first was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, which I totally expected to be amazing because everybody on BookTube talks about how great V.E. Schwab is, and everybody was just loving that book when it came out last fall and over the winter. And I did really enjoy it, but I gave it 4 stars. It just wasn't really gripping, and I thought it was kind of repetitive and not much really happened, but also like we didn't, I don't know, the characters were a little boring in a way. So yeah, it was just kind of like, it was good. It was enjoyable, but definitely not a 5-star read for me. And I tend to just really like books, so it's always a little bit surprising when a lot of people love a book and then I end up not loving it. Usually I love books more than other people do. And the second one that came to mind is Over the Woodward Wall by A. Deborah Baker, which I talked about on my channel, and I will leave a link to that or put it in the cards. And that's by Shauna McGuire. A. Deborah Baker is a pen name, and I love her Wayward Children series. Like, hands down, maybe my best, maybe my favorite series ever. I mean, I just think it's amazing. And Over the Woodward Wall, I expected to like, just because it was similar to Portal fantasy about children who in some ways are kind of misfits in their world, just like every character in the Wayward Children series. And it just fell a little flat. It just wasn't quite up to her usual standard, I felt, in the kind of fullness of the characters. The world didn't quite make sense, which is kind of a funny thing to say about McGuire because none of her worlds make sense, but they're like matched to the characters in a really special way. And this just wasn't true for that book. So yeah, there were just things that and this is, not any slight to her writing. It was partly things that I came into the book with based on prior knowledge of her as a writer and expected, but like, it's a different book in a different series than the series that I'd read. So a little bit unfair, but I thought it would be 5 stars and it wasn't. Okay, question number 2, what book had a great beginning but an ending that let you down? So one book that I reviewed on BookTube, The Guinevere Deception, which is a YA retelling of the King Arthur legend, where Merlin has a female apprentice who's going to go save King Arthur. And it's like, that's an awesome premise. Like, yeah, let's have a woman save King Arthur and make his kingdom right. And then the book wasn't executed as well as it could be. And there was a twist at the end that kind of undid the coolness of the premise for me. So yeah, great beginning, but then pretty quickly went a little bit downhill. So I'll link to the review for that below in case anyone's interested. And then How to Stop Time by Matt Haig, which I didn't talk about on this channel except when I unhauled it. I mentioned it, and it was enjoyable. Like all of these books actually that I'm covering in the first couple questions. It was enjoyable, but it just wasn't like, oh my God, enjoyable. And so How to Stop Time in particular, cool premise, person whose aging is really slowed so they can live for many, many centuries, and there's a secret society of people with that same kind of condition. Very cool, but ended up making it kind of boring. So yeah, started out good, let me down. Question number 3, do you have a book with a pretty cover but an ugly spine? Who the heck knows? I do not pay any attention to books in their outward appearance, except maybe if something is really gorgeous, obviously I'll notice that. I appreciate beauty, but I don't judge my books for having ugly spines or ugly covers. I mean, I'm here for what's in between the covers. I don't really care how it looks. That's what I've got art for. And yeah, look, I've got a painting right there, but like we have a lot of art in our house and that's the aesthetic, and the books are there to be read. So yeah, I don't pay as much attention to that. Question number 4, do you have a book series that doesn't match? Thinking specifically about the covers and the editions and the cover art. So basically carrying on from the previous sentence, I don't care very much, but I do have a lot of series like that because I tend to pick up most of my books secondhand, or they're gifts or hand-me-downs, or from the Free Book Warehouse in Baltimore, which I talk about a lot on this channel, it turns out. So an easy to grab series, this isn't even a series, let me go back up out of the light, Jane Austen's works, or some of her works that I've just picked up at various times throughout my life, are just totally different. So 2 of these, Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice, are editions from the 1960s. These belonged to my aunt, and when she read them in high school. So I love these. I'm never going to replace these because it's cool to see my aunt's, handwriting in them with her notes and her name and everything. And then I have 3 of them in this sort of trade paperback of the Penguin Popular Classic series that I picked up at various points when I was traveling in Europe and needed something to read. And especially in countries where English isn't spoken as much, it can be hard to find English editions of books, but they always have Jane Austen, which is great. So that's how I picked these up. And then a really nice copy of Leslie Castle that I think my grandmother gave me at one point, but just totally doesn't match the rest of my Austens. So I love all of these, but they don't match. Question number 5, is there a book from your youth you can remember parts of but can't remember the name of or find anywhere? So no. Not that I can think of. As I've mentioned on this channel before, I have a terrible memory. So if I can remember parts of a book, it usually is an important enough book to me that I remember what the book was, or at some point looked it up and reminded myself. So no, I can't think of anything where I like remember parts of it, but don't remember enough about it to know what the book was. Question number 6, are there any books you're certain you've read but can't remember anything about? So definitely yes, which goes with the memory problems from the previous one. Because of course I have a list of all the books I've read since, certainly since I was an adult, and actually going back through middle school and high school before Goodreads existed. I've basically been keeping track of all the books I've read since I think 2001. So I can look at that list, and I don't remember the plot or the characters or anything for like at least half the books on that list. So that's fine. Those were books I either enjoyed or didn't enjoy, but weren't really memorable enough to stick in my head. But yeah, definitely a lot of books for that one. Question number 7, have you ever recommended a book you love to someone and they started telling you everything they don't like about it? And does it bother you? So that happens to me a lot with fantasy series, that I'll be talking to people about them and they'll be like, oh, well, I started that and I actually didn't like it, and here's everything I didn't like about it, or whatever. And that's fine. I mean, fantasy is so diverse that I think different things appeal to different people. I've had people talk about all the things they hate about Game of Thrones that ruin the series for them. And it's like, yeah, I can totally see why those are big issues and could bother you. Like, no series is perfect. Nobody's a perfect writer, at least in fantasy. I think there are some people that approach perfection more than others. And no, yeah, it doesn't bother me. I mean, we all come to books from different backgrounds and perspectives and are looking for different things out of them. So that's totally fine. As long as somebody isn't going to somehow try to insult me for my taste in books or something. Yeah, different tastes. All right, question number 8. What is your worst experience loaning a book to someone? I haven't really had any bad experiences loaning books to someone. The closest thing I can come up with, which like wasn't even bad, was loaning a book, sort of an ecology textbook that I lent to a friend in grad school, and she spilled coffee on it and felt really horrible and replaced the book. And I was like, I don't mind coffee stains. Like, have you seen my books? I think I lent it to you with coffee stains. I think I mentioned in a previous tag that kind of the more damaged books get, the more I love them, because it shows that they've been read and that the knowledge has been accessed and that they've been appreciated. So I'm kind of a weird person that doesn't mind dirty, gross books. So yeah, not a bad thing. But it was very nice of her to do that. Okay, question number 9. Show me some of your impulse buys that you've never read. You know the ones you bought at midnight while online shopping or when you were walking through a bookstore, etc., etc., etc. That would be like 75% of the books in my apartment, and the books in my room in my parents' house, and the books in my closet at my parents' house. And partly it's because, as I've mentioned a couple times, there's a free book warehouse in Baltimore, which is where I grew up. And if you're in a place where the books are free and there are free boxes, and you just grab a box and you start filling it with books, like, can we call that impulse buying? Because it's like, oh, I've heard of this author. Oh, I just like this genre. I'm just going to take this entire shelf. That's what it is. So, yes, everything is an impulse buy. There are some things that are not impulse buys, but like, yeah, lots of stuff in this apartment is impulse buys. So I'm not gonna try to stack them. And then going into question number 10, just to make you hate me a little bit more, how many unread books are on your shelves? Many, many, many. And if we count all the books that are boxed up in my parents' house, I probably have, like upwards of like 700 or 800 books that I haven't read that I own technically. So, yeah, that's my lifetime project. It's a great time. I do now hate the person who created this tag. So those are my quick frustrating books tags. It's funny because some of these things, it's like, none of this is actually, most of these things aren't frustrating, except for like the first couple questions where it's like a book you thought would be really good that wasn't, or a book that started really good and wasn't. Like, that can be a little bit frustrating, but the things that I get frustrated with as a reader are more about, tropes and the ways that certain types of characters often get written, or the way plots tend to present, like things that are much more about the writing than about more of these sort of bookish things that are about like the physical books or things like that. So maybe I'll be on the lookout for a tag that covers more of those things that are frustrating. So I will wrap that up. I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm not sure how much this tag has really gone around, so I wanted to tag Megan over at Megan's Reading Revelations, because Megan, I think you might have some really strong opinions about some of these questions. So if you ever get around to watching this video, or I'll tag you below, I would love to see your answers to some of these questions when you can get to it, and if you haven't already done it. All right, so with that, I will sign off. Thanks for watching if you made it all the way through, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button below, and I'll see you in the next video.